Leverkusen, Secondkusen, Neverkusen. These are some of the names that have been used to describe Bayer Leverkusen over the years, and for good reason too. If you only remember the Bavarian giants and a struggling club that needed rescuing, you'd be surprised to hear that they used to be a genuine Bundesliga contender that gave Dortmund and Bayern a run for their money. They had such stars on their books that for 6 consecutive seasons at the turn of this century, the club came out as second best in the Bundesliga campaign. During the 2000 season, despite having the trophy in their grasp and a win or a draw against Unterhaching was all they needed, Leverkusen crumbled like wet spaghetti. 2 years later, they came insanely close again, but ruined it by losing 2 of their last 3 games, easing the path for Dortmund to win the league after a tightly contested season. If it wasn't bad enough that they lost the league, they went on to bottle the DFB Pokal final, gifting Schalke the trophy after succumbing to a 4-2 defeat. The cherry on the top was turning up to the Champions League final 4 days later, only to help Zinedine Zidane make history with a wonder goal that took the cup from Germany to Spain. You can see the patterns, can't you? Leverkusen just don't win. They are the original bottle jobs. But that story is no more, as Xabi Alonso led the club to their first ever Bundesliga title on Sunday. Here is how he changed the fortunes of a relegation-bound club, turning them into one of the best teams in world football, and with an insane unbeaten streak too. Jose Mourinho, the special one, was asked to pick any of his world-class ex-players who would make great coaches. Without missing a beat, he picked Xabi Alonso. Although Jose got some concurrent nods for his prediction and rationale, no one could have predicted just how correct the Portuguese manager would be. One of Mourinho's reasons for why the Spanish fielder might succeed is his background. See, Alonso's father was a player turned coach. If that wasn't already a good foundation, the midfielder plied his trade at the top of the football chain, being coached by some of the best minds in the game, like Rafa Benitez, Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola. His experience across 3 of the top 5 leagues, playing in different systems and against a plethora of opponents, also adds to the manager that Alonso would turn out to be. In 2019, some 2 years after hanging up his boots with Bayern Munich, Alonso returned to where it all began, Real Sociedad, his boyhood club. There, he got the gig to coach the B team. This was the moment that put Xabi Alonso on the managerial map. The player-turned-manager behemoth Xabi Alonso was born to Perico Alonso and Isabel Alano in the Basque town of Tolosa. An infectious air of greatness must have been in the air for a while, because only a few miles away, Mikel Arteta was born a year later. Both men grew up to become sought-after midfield talents and eventually exciting young managers. They both got their start in the beautiful game, playing on the beaches and the fields of northern Spain. At the time, Xabi's father Perico was a Barcelona legend, having left Real Sociedad where he first made a name for himself. Alonso would follow in the footsteps of his father, joining the Real Sociedad Academy, which soon came under the management of Perico upon retirement. Despite having a world-class father and coach at a young age, Alonso's career didn't exactly get off to a good start. He was still a child when he made his debut for Real Sociedad, but he was immediately loaned to Eibar for further development. This proved to be a key element in his development because he returned to La Real as a better player in 2001. 3 seasons into becoming a regular for his boyhood club, Alonso had done enough to catch the eye of scouts and managers alike. In comes Rafa Benitez to acquire the services of the midfielder in a deal worth €10 million. And so, in just a couple of seasons, Alonso had taken his trade to Liverpool, arguably one of the most high-flying teams at the time. He formed an electric partnership with Steven Gerrard, helping the Reds to the 2005 Champions League trophy. In the event since dubbed the Miracle of Istanbul, Liverpool came from 3-0 down against AC Milan at half-time to clinch the much-coveted trophy. Alonso's career in England was as illustrious as they come, as he clinched 3 more pieces of silverware, including the FA Cup for the Reds. At international level, he was just as much a legend, helping Spain to their 2nd ever major title at the 2008 Euros. However, his time with Liverpool soured when rumours about a potential successor to the Spanish midfielder in Gareth Barry surfaced. He'd moved back to Spain shortly afterward, joining the second generation of Galacticos alongside Kaká, Karim Benzema and Cristiano Ronaldo under Jose Mourinho and then Carlo Ancelotti. The midfielder continued his promising career, helping Los Blancos win the Champions League and the league title. His heroics continued on the international stage as he helped Spain to another Euros title under the tutelage of Vicente del Bosque. In 2015, Real Madrid traded the midfielder for Bayern Munich's Toni Kroos. This proved to be the final season for Alonso, who got to finish his playing days under Pep Guardiola. He'd win 3 more titles at the Bavarian Giants, becoming Guardiola's Kevin De Bruyne in an otherwise unplayable side. Xabi Alonso bowed out of football as a decorated player, earning the respect and adulation from fans and rivals alike. In his own words, "I've played for my hometown club, the best team in England, the best team in Spain and the best team in Germany. Having learned under some of the best coaches in the world, as well as getting the earliest career guidance from his father and coach Perico, it didn't seem out of place when Alonso returned to the beautiful game 2 years after retirement. Like his father, he returned to Real Sociedad, but instead of the academy, he was handed the B team." What followed next was 3 years of inspiring success at the Anoeta complex. Popular sentiments by his final year at the Spanish side suggested the young manager would be given the reins of the main team. However, that never happened, as Imanol Alguacil led the club to the Copa del Rey trophy amidst other heroics in the league. Alonso was still very much an unproven coach, so it made sense that those higher up thought to stick with the man who had just won them a trophy. Abroad, lots of clubs couldn't care less that the ex-midfielder had no experience managing a first team. The likes of Borussia Mönchengladbach and other German teams were sniffing around the Spanish manager, biding their time. Eventually, it was Leverkusen who took the initiative to approach him, and by God, has that paid off. Alonso has reinstated the capital L in Leverkusen. They are scorned brides no more. From a team in a relegation scrap in 2022, Leverkusen have since become unplayable. So far, they are unbeaten in the 23-24 season and have such a healthy gap to their closest rivals Bayern Munich, they've won the league with 5 games to spare. What's even more interesting and impressive is that Leverkusen aren't quite done yet. They take to the DFB Cup final where they face off against Kaiserslautern, a second-tier side. They're also in the Europa League quarter-finals where they take on West Ham, with common sentiment suggesting they'll win the domestic cup and make it to the final of the Europa League. When asked about the coaches that most inspired his career, Alonso highlighted 2 of the best, most successful managers of all time, Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho. In his words, "They share many things, but above all, they're leaders. They share that charisma, that special thing that whenever they come into the room, everyone knows the boss is there and they have to listen to him. They have different personalities and different approaches to the game, but in terms of their ambitions, how they go into the detail and how they respect the opponent, they spend so much time analysing the opponent." Suffice to say that Alonso has taken after his mentors, using his man management and game reading skills to get the most out of his players when tactics have proved ineffective in breaking down the opposition. The best example of Alonso's skills at play was when Leverkusen faced off against Mourinho's AS Roma in the Europa League semi-final the previous season. The special one got a taste of the monster he helped create as Leverkusen knocked the Italian giants out of the competition. With Mourinho since departing ways with AS Roma, we won't see the duo meet again anytime soon, but we can still expect Alonso to face off against Carlo Ancelotti or Pep Guardiola. Leverkusen will be in the Champions League draw next season after all, and it will make an interesting watch to see how the star pupil performs against his mentors. Leverkusen are a different beast under Alonso for different reasons, one of which is how they line up. The Spanish manager is one of the disciples of the 3-back line formation, fielding a 3-4-2-1 setup that allows his team to control most aspects of the pitch of the game at large. Alonso's formation allows him to use wing-backs higher up the pitch, but rather than play as wide men or wingers, he deploys them asymmetrically, such that one has defensive duties whilst the other joins the attack. In this case, Ronaldo defends whilst Frimpong attacks. The genius of this tactic is that it leaves the opponents confused. The imbalance makes it difficult to predict how the team attacks and defends and pulls opponents out of position, especially in a man or zonal marking scenario. The disruption allows Leverkusen to dictate play and force errors in the opposition. But tactics are merely ideas if there aren't players to implement them. For that, Alonso must be glad he got his hands on this particular crop of players. Just about every signing under the Spanish midfielder has been a success, from Ronaldo to Xhaka to Boniface to Hoffman. Each one of them has acclimatised to the club and Alonso's tactics splendidly, becoming a key part of his unstoppable Leverkusen machine. In his words, to prepare for this year, we started thinking about these strategic players in these strategic positions. Who could make us and where could we be better? Perhaps the biggest unseen influence that Alonso has had in the rejuvenation of Leverkusen as a team is imparting his ethos and philosophies on the players. Easily one of the best, most successful midfielders of all time, Alonso has translated his skills into tactical adaptability, control and exploitation of spatial advantages. Add to that his preferred formation, and Leverkusen operate a balanced approach that combines offensive innovation and staunch defensive organisation, helping them to score more and concede less. Not to mention that they almost always control the game or influence their opponent's control, allowing for methodical progression and tempo management. The result is a team that isn't afraid to go for the win, adapt in the face of changing dynamics, or cower in the face of any opponent. A dream team.